Yes guys, I'm back again with another video, and this time obviously it's about Grant Cardone and the 2 days I spent with him on the Cabo Mastermind in Mexico. So guys, stick around to the end. This, trust me, gems upon gems upon gems, what I kind of got out of Grant while I was out there. So yeah, stick around to the end, guys.
Praise God, bro.
Alright, so first of all, before we start, for guys who don't know who I am, my name is Alfred Dzadey. I am based in the UK. I'm a property investor slash business investor. And in this video, obviously, I'm going to talk about my experience with Grant and being that close proximity with him. I don't know where to start. A lot happened. I think first, let's talk about how I got to the mastermind, because it wasn't planned. So I was at his 3-day business bootcamp in Miami. That was an amazing experience as well. I learned so much. I created a video on what I learned in that as well, so you can go check that out. On the last day of that event, they were like selling me this whole 2-day experience in Cabo. Do you want to go? But I kind of dismissed it. I wasn't really interested. I wasn't really thinking about it. And then the last day it hit me. It's like, you know what? I had a conversation with somebody else, and that person, Mandy, shout out to Mandy. She kind of planted this in my head and kind of got me thinking, like, why am I not doing this? Like, this is a one-time experience. The price is only going to get higher. He did one prior to this one that I went to, which was in the Bahamas, and that was amazing. I spoke to Coach Stormy. So if you guys on Instagram, you probably know who that is. And their partner Mello as well. And spoke to a few people, like the experiences of the first one that he did, and it feels like it's priceless, like people, connections you made. So kind of it was in my head, and like, okay, do I do it? Do I not do it? And I said, you know what, the money's there, why not? So again, I kind of fall back to when I started off my property investment journey, where I invested £25,000 into my property education, mentorship, coaching, all that stuff. And I kind of said, you know what, this is the room I want to be in. Why would I not do this? And it took a lot. I had to cancel. I had a family gathering that was meant to be going to, had a barbecue arranged that I was meant to be flying back to the UK for. So I kind of called them and said, look guys, I'm not coming home. I'll see you guys in a couple of days time. I'm going to stay out here for longer and then fly from here to Mexico to make the mastermind. So I had to move that for a few days. I had to change my flights, book new flights to get out to Mexico, extend my stay in the hotel for a few more days so I can fly from Miami to Mexico, come back to Miami, and then fly from Miami back to London. So it was a lot of jet lag as well, like up and down, flying from one place to another. But it was a great experience. They hosted it at Grand Las Velas in Los Cabos. Check it out, amazing hotel, like literally best place probably stayed in my entire life. But yeah, let's get straight into what the value add was to myself. So I think for me, it was a day one. Yeah, day one, we had an experience with Grant. We had a mastermind session in the morning. There's a lot I was taking out from that, but I'm gonna say the things that are really impactful to myself. So a lot obviously was learned. I took a lot of notes, asked a lot of questions in the room. And the first thing was something that Grant keeps banging on about, where he says, it doesn't take money to make money. It takes courage to make money. A lot of people probably won't understand this, but I'm going to try and explain this and how I saw that in reality whilst being there. So during the day one of the mastermind, they hired out a yacht. I can't remember how big it is. I'm not into yachts, so I don't really know this stuff, but that was an experience in itself. And obviously there's about 30 people who were out with us. So Grant's team, including the people that came in the mastermind. And Grant came on the boat and decided, let's play poker. So he got poker chips out and people got on the table. And the mad thing is, this thing started off with like maybe £200 bets to start with. I didn't get involved. I don't really bet. So I was kind of watching the background, analyzing. I was very, like that trip, I was very observant. I was still very vocal and all that stuff, but I was trying to absorb as much as possible and learn just by watching and just seeing how people move. And obviously more importantly, see how Grant moves. Because literally this is probably the only time I'm going to be this close proximity to him, have a chat with him, have a laugh, have a drink, food, all that stuff was available. So yeah, the poker game, obviously 10 people on the table said they'll play. It was open to the whole group. 10 people said, I want to play. Sat on the table, started off with $200 bets. Obviously chips were handed out to each person. And what was the game called? Guts. So that's it. It was called Guts. And the whole purpose of the game was having guts. Because obviously basically you have your poker rules still apply. So in terms of whatever the highest cards are, obviously you got the flush, you got the same suits, you got the king jack, all that stuff. So whoever had the highest cards, obviously once you dealt out the cards, you pick up your cards, look at your cards. Obviously if you had the guts that you had the best cards on the table, or you wanted to bluff, you could bluff and potentially have the guts to put a chip out to say, yep, I'm in for this bet, for this round, here's my chip. Obviously whoever puts their hands out with the chip in their hands will then look at their cards to see who's got the highest cards, and whoever's got the highest card obviously wins. So for me, during that game, there were several stages where in my mind, I was thinking, well, in reality, you could have walked onto that table with no money in your bank account. Obviously, high risk, very, very high risk. Probably wouldn't do. I don't gamble, so I can't really speak on that. But the point here is, you could have walked into that table with zero money in your bank account and had the guts that you can go with a poker face, play the talk the talk, and win money. Like literally win money, like by people obviously who are on the table who are betting in and losing. Obviously, you have to kind of luck has got to be on your side if you're going to go in there not really have money in your bank account, but maybe are good at poker and have a poker face and nobody can really read you, or you're very loud and maybe everyone maybe shies away because they think you've got the best cards on the table for whatever reason. That happened a few times. Some people kind of shied away, didn't go for it because they thought maybe someone on the table had a better card, and the person who had probably the worst card on the table put their hands out and won. And there was another point where it started to grow. This pot was starting to grow. There was certain rounds, I think the chips on the table maybe like 5,000 bets. Grant lost I think maybe like 30 grand, or maybe more than that. I think like 50, maybe even. Like there was I've never felt like a good 120 grand lost on the table on that day. For me, there was two principles, I guess. One, it takes courage to make money in a sense. You could have gone on the table, had no money, taking the courage of putting yourself out there, not really necessarily having the best cards on the table, but everyone else might have shied away and you could have won. That was one. And then two, there was an exchange of wealth. So obviously people that lost money, their wealth was distributed to other people on the table. So again, that's another principle obviously talked about quite a lot. Like wealth, like currency is like a flow. It's a flow. It just moves around the table. There's no physical money on the table. There's just a piece of paper, and you sign in against those lines, and obviously you owe that money against the name. you're on the table. You're playing. So there's a lot of wealth transfer happening. So obviously people that lost money, that wealth was transferred to people that won the money. I think our biggest winner was Natalie. She won 23 grand or 20 grand on one of the rounds. Because again, the pot kept going up and up and up and up and up and up. And the round that she won, she was the only one that put her hands out. And again, for me, that kind of confirms it takes guts it takes courage to make money. Everybody else chickened out. She put her hands out. I think she did have quite strong hands. I don't know if anybody had a better hand on the table at the time. Obviously, everyone was getting kind of excited, like someone's won 20 grand, literally won 20 grand by having the guts to put their hands out with a chip in their hands. And yeah, so for me, that was it just instilled so much in my head that it doesn't take money to make money. It takes courage to make money. So for me, that was probably one of the things I learned during that. I already kind of knew it, but it's kind of seeing it in person and just really, really like digesting, like just analyzing, like just seeing it and watching it, for me, just said it all for me. Another thing for me that I took away, again, nothing great. Like all these things I'm going to share aren't like new news. Like they're things you probably hear all the time, maybe you haven't even heard before. And if you haven't, hope this is probably the best thing you've already heard, and allows you to kind of go forward and take a chance on yourself, I guess. So yeah, for me, another point was committing, and creativity will follow. And again, it's nothing new. Like I could even like being at the mastermind itself, I just committed, I invested, and then obviously had to work around how do I cancel on my family, how do I cancel on being able to travel back, change my flights, extend my hotels. Like I said, I didn't have plans for that, but I had to just make that. I had meetings I was going to do and stuff. I just had to creativity came. I just made it happen basically because I'd committed. And Grant banged on a lot in the room, like during the mastermind sessions. He's like, yeah, guys, like a lot of the things that I do, like sometimes we don't even know how we're gonna do it. I keep getting my team in trouble. Like I'll just say things like, okay, cool, we're gonna run a mastermind, for example. This mastermind we did, he's like, we're just gonna run a mastermind, go figure out. And the team, like once he commits, the rest with the mechanics, like he doesn't need to know the mechanics. He just needs to know that he's committed, he's 100% all in, and he knows that with the team himself, with that level of commitment, because the team are committed. The minute Grant says he's committed to doing something, they're all in the mindset of, well, we've committed now. We need to figure a way to make this happen. And there's no excuses. And again, I think another tip is the guys that I was with and their mindset, they're so unreasonable around what's possible. And I was seeing that stuff like literally in the room, live flesh. Like Grant could just shout some stuff and the team would just make it happen. Like things were like improvements were being made in the room as and when. Do you know what I mean? Like things were just happening in real time. Like it was insane to see like how his team is structured and how everyone's on the same page. That principle of committing and creativity will follow. Even like if I reflect back on certain things in my life, I see that whenever I do 100% commit, like 100% you're in, all in. Like you could say 25 grand investment into this mastermind, I was all in. And I took a bet on myself again. So creativity will follow. Like whenever I've pushed myself to having to raise money last minute, I've committed to raising the money. I've agreed a deal, don't have the money. I've committed to buying a deal, started to spend money, but not even got the deposit raised yet. But I've committed. And once I've committed, I've always found that I would find ways. I would have higher levels of action in terms of work required to do the job done. My confidence as well. It's on another planet. Like I'm like, yep, there's no way I don't do this. It's gonna happen. I'm unreasonable with my thoughts of what's possible, what isn't possible. Like I could need to raise 200 grand. If I've committed 200 grand, I need to raise 200 grand in the next 24 hours. The minute I know I'm all in, I'm committed, I'll find a way. And it's just being in that mode as much as possible. So 24/7. If you can be in that mode of just being able to commit, not necessarily understanding the mechanics behind every single thing before making a decision, then that is a principle, a philosophy you want to follow, and I think will take you far in your life. So for me, seeing that in reality as well, and kind of it being said again several times during those 2 days, for me was massive and probably one of my biggest takeaways. Another takeaway for me was all around targets. And Grant's team, really, they just run on data. They're like, okay, let's say our target is we want to run a webinar call on the weekend, and the target is we want to get 100,000 people on the call before like booked in, like signed up. For them, they're tracking that target, sometimes even hourly, like daily, that the targets are being met. If they see that the level of action they're taking isn't getting them to the goals, or getting in more people, they try different forms. Again, they don't rely on one form of anything to work. They want to try, if it's emailing, if it's cold calling, if it's running ads on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. These are all different forms of trying to get people into a room. So they're very big on what's the target. Whatever is working well, they want to add fuel to the fire and, in essence, create rocket ship. So this is Grant's analogy. Like, you want to know what's working well. If I see a little spike, he's like, hold on a minute, well, guys, what's that spike? What caused the spike? Let's repeat that and add fuel to the fire and blow this thing up. So this could be more investment in terms of either spending money or whatever, or volume of emails going out. If that's working, they're going to increase the volume of that style of email that is showing success. So he's very big on like, let's find out what's working and let's literally blow that stuff up. And that's something I've kind of come back with and I've already started to implement as well. I'm very now like metric driven. I'm looking at what's working, what's the conversion, like what's our stats. Like if we're trying to convert people into masterminds, for example, masterminds that I run, we're looking at, okay, cool, how many leads were informed of the mastermind, how many people booked the call versus how many people actually signed up. And then if the target is to get 100 people in the mastermind, we know we need to replicate this thing by X amount of times to get that result, if that makes sense. Because we know these are the stats to achieve 3 people or 10 people join the mastermind. So we need to 10x it to be able to get 100 people in of that same metric 10 times to be able to get the same that result of 100 people by the same time frame. So these are all little things that I learned. So another tip that was for me, and this was a personal question I kind of asked to Brandon Dawson. So I kind of asked it at the business bootcamp and kind of got a response, but it wasn't in depth enough. And obviously, me being in the mastermind now, I could ask. Like Brandon was like literally, I think two steps. This conversation actually went on for a good 10 minutes, and kind of even Grant was making jokes. What the hell is roll up? What the hell is tucking? What the hell is? We were talking about business and acquiring businesses and combining business together. And doing a roll up of businesses is kind of a terminology we use in the business acquisition world. So Grant was like, what's a roll up? What's it? Start to make jokes about it. So me and Brandon Dawson were kind of going back and forward regards what my vision was in terms of what I want to kind of build up back in the UK. So initially I mentioned to him about my plan was to go around acquiring £5 million businesses in the same sector and look to kind of combine them and create a group. And he was like, that's okay, but not really the best way to go about doing it, because his thing was, well, first of all, these £5 million businesses potentially are going to have cultural issues when trying to combine them all together. Because the whole way to kind of add value is you want to try and combine the two together, create synergies, improve the efficiencies of the business, basically. And he was like, well, you're going to need to have a way to kind of integrate the team together. So, and potentially an integration team to help integrate the two businesses together. And if they're all around the same level of revenue, then chances are it's going to be it's way harder to make it happen. And then like you're just not at the basically, to put it point blank, you're just not at the right stage to start combining business together from this perspective of buying logistics businesses. In other areas of the businesses or other sectors, it could make sense. If it's maybe, I guess an example could be having a nursery. A nursery can have a site where you can only the way to kind of obviously have a group of nurseries, but they're not kind of cross-selling. Each is kind of specific to a site, and obviously the only thing you can do is maximizing the revenue each site can generate. So therefore, the more sites you can have, if you can increase each site by X amount of percent, obviously then increase your whole group by X amount of percent. So it makes sense from that point of view. But this particular scenario, he was like, it's not the best way. Rather, how about you buy one at 5 million, grow that to 50 million, and then, or like a higher level, which for him he calls a platform business. And then at that point, you have an established business. You've got processes and systems in place. You've scaled, you're scaling. You can then you've got a C-suite, so C-suite meaning like your CEOs, your CFOs, so your chief financial officer, your COO, chief operating officer, all these C-suite people who are running the business. So any business now you bring who's maybe doing £5 or £10 million to bolt into your business, they now have to adapt to this bigger company, this platform. That's what he likes to call it. So which kind of shifted my mind. So my whole kind of goal of acquiring this group isn't really going to fruition per se just yet. But now the plan is buy, build, and then look to do mergers later on in this sector. And again, being in that room and kind of hearing other business owners and what business sectors they're in. And again, you start to learn like people aren't doing anything creative or like aren't really doing anything unique to generate revenue in their businesses. Like we had people doing construction, landscaping. These were guys doing 10 million plus in revenue. Like one guy was selling cotton, doing 40 million pounds in trading cotton, physical cotton. So again, nothing unique. Like I met a guy at a business bootcamp. He was doing pasta. He sells pasta, manufactures pastas for like luxury hotels, restaurants. Literally just manufactures pasta. Again, you think about it, you're like, well, yeah, it does make sense. A lot of places in the world need pasta. So really and truly, he's currently doing 7.5 million. They should be doing 40 million pounds. They're on track to do 14 million pounds by the end of the year. And it's like, it makes sense. Like, it's nothing unique. Like, even a bottle of water, like, if you decide to want to create water and start to kind of sell these to companies, businesses, hotels, whatever, you can very, very quickly realize some revenue in the market share. Like, you're not even gonna, the market share is so big, like, you taking a few million pounds is so unnoticeable. Like, it doesn't even, like, nobody would even notice you. And for me, that kind of made me think, like, yeah, like, you don't have to, like, even though the business I'm going for isn't like a unique business, it's a traditional business. And again, it was another reason why I want to stick to something traditional, like something that worked, has proved the test of time, isn't going to fall, it's recession proof, like all these things. So like, you don't have to think then, like, oh, I have to come with this crazy new idea. And obviously there are those crazy unicorn, that's what they like to call it, unicorn businesses. But those are the businesses that potentially are going to try and do $1 trillion, $1 billion. And that's kind of high risk, high reward. And it's obviously a lot of time invested to hopefully realize something in the end. But like, why not do something that you know for sure has been done, can be scaled, and just follow what's been done. Again, if you know me well enough, I'm not one to try and reinvent the wheel. I want to know what works, and I want to replicate what works. That's for me. And then for me, I'm going into sectors that are so big that, again, me taking £1 billion out of that sector, I'm obviously I'll probably get noticed. But the point is that it's such a big industry that taking £1 billion in revenue, I'm not really going to get noticed. Like, I'm still a small fish compared to someone doing few billion, 10 billion, 20, 100 billion in those sectors. Just being in that room, obviously, there's a lot I learned. I've just quickly shared some few points of view that I learned while I was being there. But trust me, there's a lot more that I learned from there. And I've come back. I've already started implementing some stuff into my business. My business is growing. My social media profile, everything's going to be growing. You're going to see in the next few months. If you aren't following me, make sure you follow me on my Instagram, TikTok. I'm on all the platforms. There'll be all types of different content going on each platform. So even the YouTube stuff, I want to try and get some more content out. So a lot of things are happening. I'm hiring people. So just stay tuned, follow the journey. A lot is going on. And obviously I'll share more things with you as I develop and grow as a person. I've shared a lot with you in this video. I hope you guys got the value out of it. If you did, please hit that like button. And also, if you feel like someone will get some benefit of listening to this as well, please share this video, because that will help with the algorithms and my channel growing. So guys, I shall see you on the next video. Take care. Peace out.